Welcome back, everybody. We've got another episode of the Even Your Dynasty show. I'm hoping that Dan's going to be able to join me here in a little bit. His internet, for those of you that saw the chat, his internet is having some issues right now. So fingers crossed that he'll be able to join us. But we're here to talk a little bit about Giants this week. Coming off a pretty rough week, very disappointing, I'd say, for a lot of us that were, hopeful that this team would be able to kind of go on a run, and they looked like they were kind of primed to do it. They come home, they get good starts from Robbie Ray and from Logan Webb, and they take the first two games against Detroit. They weren't pretty games, but they found a way to win it, and then they come back and they lose three straight games that it felt like they a little bit better situational hitting, and they would have won, possibly all three, if not at least a couple of them. So three disappointing losses in a row. Then they lose where they get just trounced by Atlanta. Actually, it was four straight kind of close ones, and then they get or they get trounced by Atlanta, and then they win the last game of that series. Logan Webb looked good for two of those wins. They get a couple good Logan Webb starts out of them. Yeah, I see it there. It's kind of past my bedtime too. We finally got the little one down. For those of you wondering, our daughter just turned one yesterday, so that's why we didn't do our normal Thursday pod. So we're doing it today. Hopefully, get a few more people in here. Hopefully we can get Dan in here soon. But yeah, Logan Webb gave them two good starts. The kids are kind of struggling. Harrison battled. He clearly didn't have his best stuff. Birdsong might be hitting a little bit of a wall. He's had a couple bad outings in a row. Hopefully, and the last one, I didn't feel like his stuff looked, terrible or anything like that. Made a couple mistakes, especially the one that went for, I think, a 3-run homer that really killed him. So, we'll see. They're going to need some production out of these starters, these young kids. Especially when you see guys like Alex Cobb, which I was all for that trade. I'm not going to sit here and try and be, revisionist history and say they shouldn't have traded Cobb. But, when you do move a guy like Cobb, it makes it to where you don't have a lot of wiggle room with a guy like Hayden Birdsong struggling. So looks like Tristan Beck is going to be back soon, though. So that, I don't know if he's going to be stretched out enough to really start games, but he's thrown 3 innings a few times now, and he can be kind of a safety net for the young guys. If they have to pull them early from a game, he may be able to come in and give you 3 or 4 innings. So there is some kind of positives there. But I mean, we're really getting kind of to the point now with this team at the season where they're in a spot where, how can I put this? They got 40 or so games left, and they're probably going to need to go 8 to 10 games over 500 to even have a hope and a prayer at making the playoffs, because they, now they don't have the tiebreaker with Atlanta. All they had to do was split, and they would have had the tiebreaker with Atlanta, and they, lose 2 games they probably should have won, as well as the game that they got blown out of, which, it happens. That game I would not have been that upset at it had not come right after 3 straight games they should have probably at least won 1 or 2 of. Rob says it best, I think, right here. Honestly, the pitching issues are secondary to the lack of situational hitting. 100%. I mean, this team is almost historically bad when it comes to situational hitting. I've kind of harped on it for years now. It feels like almost every year they somehow get worse. Now, is that a coaching issue? Is it a, roster issue as a whole, like who they have here? Is it, I don't, is it just bad luck at times? It's hard to say, but to me, like when you have a bunch of guys that swing and miss quite a bit, I tend to lean towards it's kind of the roster construction and the lineup construction. And I've said for a long time, they need a few more contact oriented guys. You saw it when Jung-Hoo Lee was healthy, and they did try to address that. We saw it when Lee was healthy. They did It felt like when he would come up in an at bat where they needed to get a fly ball or get a guy in, he did a good job of putting the ball in play and making it happen. So, that's where I think in a perfect world, a guy like Luis Matos could be another one of those guys. He hasn't really put it together yet at the major league level. He's obviously having a pretty poor season on the whole, if you factor in both what he's done in AAA and the majors. So time will tell there. They've got a couple guys, young guys that they're relying on right now with Grant McCray, whose book on him has always been a little bit of swing and miss. He had a really solid game the other day. He got a bunt down that, should his first hit should have probably been a fielder's choice, an error. Yeah, I know McCray after the game said, "Hey, it's a free hit, he'll take it." But the second hit was definitely no doubter. He hit just an absolute bomb to center. And that's something that he's shown in the minors and throughout his, professional career is he has better pop than people give him credit for. A lot of people talk about him like a speed guy that, that's his main thing. And, this is a guy that hit 20 plus home runs in A-ball. I think last year he hit 14. This year he had, I want to say around 10 or so. He was in double digits, I believe, if you factor in between AA and what he had done in Sacramento. And now you have this one. So he's probably at, somewhere to 10 to 12 range on the season. He has pretty, he looks pretty sneaky. He's got some sneaky pop there. Yes, we finally got stuff on the wall. I'm sorry it took so long. I had been talking about doing this. I had been talking about doing this for a long time. Big shout out to my dad. I was working today. He did a lot of this while we had a bunch of bats and stuff that I've had since I was a teenager. And he put up a lot of this stuff while I was working today. So I appreciate him for, getting this background to be not so plain. But so looking forward, they've got Oakland, they've got Chicago. I think I had mentioned, they really needed to try and find a way to go 5-2 on that homestand between Detroit and Atlanta. They go 3-4. That kind of pretty much eliminates the entire, the wiggle room they might have had with Oakland and Chicago. Like, I don't ever want to say they're all must wins, but they kind of need to go find a way to win all 5, if not at the minimum 4-1, because they're really putting themselves in a tough spot where after this, they're going to go to Milwaukee. They're going to go to Seattle. Now they're both teams that look like, Milwaukee's probably going to win the NL Central. Seattle is competing for the AL West. If anything, they may be, possibly a wild card for Seattle, but those are going to be 2 tough places to play. I'm actually going to be going to the game against Seattle, I think next Friday. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Haven't looked at the pitching matchup. I'm guessing it's probably going to, I'm hoping it might end up being actually like Snell, but I'm not sure who's actually going to be going in that game. We'll see kind of what they can do. I mean, they're putting themselves in a spot where before, had they had a good homestand, they could have possibly split that series, been just fine. Now it kind of feels like they're going to need to find a way on that road trip to maybe pull out a 4-2 after having a really good stretch against Oakland, Chicago. I mean, reality is like the math is just starting to work against them. They're starting to, run into just not having enough games left to really, make a push here. And it's unfortunate because I do think it's not a talent problem as much as it is just guys aren't getting they're not making the winning plays. This team fails to get too many guys in from third when they have less than 2 outs. They fail to move runners over. They fail to get the big hit when they need it and hit with runners in scoring position in general. It's just a constant, it's a constant thing that they've been dealing with. So D-Shot, Hunter Bishop still doing anything. He's been struggling. For those of you that have watched like my last handful of minor league videos, it feels like every week I talk about how he went like 3 for 20 or 2 for 18 or something like that. He's been really having a tough time. He's been having kind of a tough time in the last month or so, it feels like. Now he does make some impressive swings. He actually hit a home run off Johnny Cueto a couple days ago. Might have been 2 days ago that he hit that ball. Now Cueto, he's not what he used to be. He's throwing like high 80s, maybe low 90s occasionally. I want to say it looked like maybe an 89-mile-an-hour cutter or something like that. But Bishop absolutely smoked it into right center. Hit it pretty far. I like Bishop's swing. I like his tools, but he just hasn't figured it out. And I'm not sure what his history might or what his future may be with San Francisco. But yeah, I'm still rooting for the guy. I don't root against any of these guys. I want to see them all succeed. Even the ones that I make jokes about, the Nick Ahmeds and the Tom Murphys and stuff, like, I still want them to succeed. They play for the Giants. I'm gonna root for whoever's got that, whoever's got the Giants on the front of their jersey, even if I would prefer to see someone else playing for them. Let's see. Original cap. McCray's up. So yeah, I'll transition this into the kind of the McCray, and this is going to be, this is going to be kind of a, McCray / Luciano talk. I'm going to start with McCray, and then we'll get kind of to Luciano, because I'm hopeful that Dan will be able to get his stuff figured out, and if he does, I know he's got a lot of thoughts, especially on Luciano. Okay, Dan says he's going to try and join in. He's been dealing with some internet issues. It might be a little bit spotty. We'll see how it works out for him. So we'll get Dan in here. If the internet's kind of awful, he might jump out though. But starting off with my thoughts on Grant McCray. Grant McCray has been one of my favorite prospects for a long time. It doesn't, he's not a perfect prospect, and they rarely are. His thing is big time glove in center field, big time, athlete in general, tons of speed, some, like I mentioned earlier, good power, has a good arm. The biggest question is, the hit tool, and he has a 40 grade hit tool, probably deserved. You look at historically, he's pushed his strikeout rates closer to 30%. Now, he did do really well in Sacramento. It's a tighter zone. He kept the he kept the strikeout rate down under 25%. That is a good thing for him. He's a guy that if he can keep that strikeout rate down, he can be a really good player. And I don't I think he could be just an absolute lightning rod type player that just can at times just carry the lineup and create runs for you. They've lacked that speed guy for so long, and now they have Fitzgerald, which is awesome. And I would love to get a second one. I mean, honestly, I've always said, me personally, if I was the one making all the decisions, I'd be sitting there, trying to get as many speed guys in this lineup as I possibly could. This is a huge park. Give me line drives and speed. That's how you should be approaching this park. They've been kind of power obsessed the last few years, and it really hasn't worked out for them. So,
let's give it a shot, bud.
Libs. Hey, it's smooth right now. We'll see.
All right, fingers crossed, dude. I've literally been fighting for an hour trying to get this going. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's true, everyone. He literally texted me an hour ago, and he goes, "Uh-oh, we got a problem."
Yeah, so. It's weird. I noticed it this morning. I was like, I think it'll be fine. And then when we're getting closer, I was like, let me just test it to be sure. Because I have 2,000 megabits per second. It was like, oh, you're getting 1.2. I was like, what? Yeah, so. But we're here. Make the best of it.
Yeah. Nice. All right, so we're doing some McCray talk. And my I don't know. I know you commented in the chat. I don't know if you had it up and you were listening or anything, but what I was saying is, with McCray, I feel like It's clearly the one deficiency in his game, potentially, and guys can figure it out, and sometimes they'll have some swing and miss, and they'll figure out a way to make enough contact. And I don't know if it's just purely swing and miss. Sometimes it's pitch recognition. Sometimes it's any number of things. It certainly can improve, but I feel like he's a guy that I definitely want to see get an audition the rest of the way. Like they're 500 team. And I mean, you all saw the name of this video. It's literally the endless gravitational pull of 500 with the Giants. I sent out a tweet the other day that was like the Giants' biggest rival the last 3 years has been 500. And they've kind of gotten their ass kicked by it every year because every year we're in the same boat. They're just constantly, they get a couple games under, then they get a couple games over, and then they just constantly just go right back and forth on that one. So I think I'm at the point where I want to see McCray just play the last 40 some odd games. What do they have? Like 40 games, 42 games, something like that. I mean, I want to see McCray get all of them, or nearly all of them. Because if he does show something, to me, what McCray does should be a determining factor, not necessarily because you could always go sign a guy, but it should be a determining factor on whether or not you tender a contract to Mike Yastrzemski.
100%.
Because what's Yaz going to get? Maybe 10 mil next season?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in arbitration. So,
yeah. I think McCray showed two tools yesterday that this offense and the team has been lacking in general for the whole season: small ball and power bat. So it's like, and they're tangibles that he's not necessarily known for. He's more known for his speed and his defense. But I mean, shoot, dude, if you got a young guy that's bringing a spark and he can provide quality defense, why not give him a shot for the remainder of the year? Our playoff percentage odds or whatever the experts calculate is like 4-6%. It's like he's your best chance right now at igniting some sort of spark. And if you don't make it, great. I mean, at least you gave one of your more talented prospects a legit audition, and you can see what you got going into next season.
Yeah, I mean, if he looks good and you feel like, okay, we can go into next season with him either starting or playing a big role of some sort. I mean, think about the range the outfield would have with McCray, Lee, and Ramos. If Ramos is your left fielder, you have an above average athlete plus defender playing left field.
Yeah.
And the two guys to to his left, our right, looking at the outfield, are just incredible athletes between Lee and McCray. So it's like the range those guys would have in the parks they play in, because, San Francisco, Petco, Dodger Stadium, even to an extent, it's a little more neutral, but it's still a pretty big yard, and Coors Field. Like those are 3 huge yards.
True.
And I mean, Arizona's actually, it just plays live, but it's actually a pretty big field because of center field. Sure. I mean, the NL West in general, I mean, there's a premium on having range in the outfield, and the Giants have just had none for years. So, I mean, Yaz is solid, but as a whole, they haven't had a center fielder, and left field's been, the Jock Petersons of the world and guys like that going out there.
I was just gonna say, you didn't like having Jock?
Yeah, dude, that picture. Okay, for everybody that didn't see it, it was like the progression of Jock Peterson over the years, and he was like a twig in LA when he was a rookie, and it was just like he got a little bigger, and then when he hit San Francisco, it's like he gained 30 pounds. So the joke out there was like the food in San Francisco must be just the best in the world, because.
But he was hitting those food trucks downtown. Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah. I mean, the way I've looked at it, though, especially now that we've gotten rid of Soler, and there's going to be potential at the DH spot for, getting at bats for some of these young guys or rotating guys through that spot, is in a perfect world. And yes, this is a lot of young guys out there, but in a perfect world, I would love for 4 of your outfielders next season to be Ramos, Matos, Lee, and McCray. You have 2 righties and 2 lefties, plus the DH spot. You could easily mix and match them and get each of these guys 500 at bats or more.
Easily. easily.
So I would love to see it. That would require the team actually admitting, like, they don't have to say, hey, we're going into a rebuild, but like that would have to be the team admitting, like, hey, we're going to focus on the youth and try and figure this out, because bringing in 1 to 2 war players repeatedly and plugging them in a starting spot is not doing it. Like, they need stars, and until they get stars, we're going to have a problem. So
no, 100%. I think that's the best route to go at this point, and I think it's how it probably should have been for the majority of the season. So, I mean, that saying's what, better late than never. Because it's like, if you really wanted to make a push for the wild card, you kind of handled and botched the trade deadline. You did more so of a half-sale job with the promise of giving opportunities to the youth, and then doing the complete opposite. You sold and didn't give opportunities. So I don't know. I think that could have been handled a little differently, and has a lot to do with the position that we're in right now. Throwing hands.
We'll get to Luciano.
Yeah, we'll get to Luciano for sure. But just in general, I just hope that this appearance by McCray isn't one of those things where it's like, all right, you're going to play 2 games in a row, and then we're going to sit you for 4 games. Then you're going to get 3 at-bats. Then we're going to pull you, and then you're going to play you one more time, and then we're going to send you down. I just don't want it to be that usual yo-yo of a prospect. You know what I mean?
100%. And I just love what he brings so much with McCray. Like, I think with this team currently, like, I mean, they've already got offensive issues, and I'm at the point where, we can't sit there and be like, oh God, he's not hitting, if he does end up struggling for a few games, when it's like second base and catcher is just it's a black hole for offense. Like, we're getting nothing out of those 2 positions offensively.
Yeah.
So, it's like, hey, if McCray struggles a little bit, who cares? Because it gets Ramos to a corner, and our defense gets so much better with those 2 in more natural spots. So I would rather let him go out there every day, and we'll just go from there. Yeah, Mark, that's because Farhan sits on the fence for 6 years. That's all he's done. Yeah, I'm sure. I would think his rear end is getting sore by now, because he's been sitting on the fence for 6 years, and I don't know how he does it.
It's funny when you say sits on the fence. All I can think about is Humpty Dumpty.
Yep.
Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, and then because he's an egg.
Yep.
That's all I can think of.
Robert says, all right, here okay. So Robert says Giants are far from done, and then he followed it with they need to sweep the next 2 series. I love the optimism, Robert. I know I see you all the time when I jump in on Dan's. I know you are definitely the most optimistic Giants fan that I see from. I disagree that they are far from done. I think they're about 1 bad series from being done. Like, the math is just not there for them, but it is definitely not impossible if they, it's 38 games left. My apologies. The math is definitely not impossible, but they desperately need a good winning streak somewhere in here, because go for it.
I was going to say, here's my thing. Over the next 38 games, to just have a legitimate chance at a wild card spot, the team has to go 23-15 minimum. Absolutely minimum. That'll get you to 85 wins. And my thing is, it's one thing to be optimistic, and I sure hope we win all 38 games in a row. Like, I would love that. I love nothing more than
100 wins.
But 100 wins would be great. But you have to look at the reality of what the team has shown since March. And here we are, mid-August, and we're still fighting the dreaded 500 ball. It's like, could we play, 600, 700 ball like we need to get to that ideal number to scratch at a 3rd wild card spot? It's just, in all reality, it's seeming less and less likely by the day, especially when the team that's currently 3rd in the wild card spot, Atlanta, now they have a tiebreaker over you because you've lost 3 out of 4 to them. So it's like these losses are like a literal gut punch because every game is a must win at this point.
Yeah. And like, I almost need to adjust what I feel is going to be what they need to get to make it, because it's like, originally I said 86 wins. I said, I think 86 wins gives them a good chance of getting in. But that was kind of contingent on at least winning the season series against Atlanta. Like that involved at least splitting this series and having, having the tiebreak over them to where, maybe you both win 86 and you get in because of that. Now they've lost it. Like, they might need 87. And I mean, just to get to 85 wins, it takes a 605 winning percentage. To get to 86 wins, it's a 632 winning percentage the rest of the way. I mean, this is a tall order unless you pull a big winning streak out. Like, that's
and it doesn't get any easier in September. It doesn't get any easier.
Oh, God.
This is the easy stretch right now. Then it gets harder. So it's like, if you're not capitalizing on this quote unquote easy stretch, you're just shooting yourself in the foot at that point.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, they've unfortunately, they've backed themselves into the spot where they almost have to win all 5 games against Oakland and Chicago. Like, they can't afford to drop one.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality, and maybe they can go 4-1, but if you go 4-1, you better go 4-2 on that road trip. And then you've got Miami, and you better sweep Miami. Like, that's the dilemma they're in. Yes, they could sweep Chicago and Miami, and they're 6 games over with those 2 teams, but they still they can't mess around in these other series. Because if they don't go into the September, well, I guess it's like September 2nd or 3rd or whatever. The Miami series, I think, ends on the 1st. So if they don't get out of that series at least 6 games over 500, like, they're done. Because I hate to break it to everyone, this team ain't making a move in September when they've got 6 games against San Diego, 6 games against Arizona, 3 games against Baltimore, 3 games against Kansas City, and 3 games against St. Louis. Like, if they will, they somehow make a move in that stretch, I will eat as much crow as anybody because I don't see it happening, unfortunately.
And the thing is, it's not even like a pessimistic perspective. It's a realistic perspective. And
100%.
That's really what it comes down to. So, and part of it is also what you touched on earlier, where it's like, you've got 2 positions and 4 players who have gotten ice cold at the absolute worst time. And it's contributing a lot to the fact that we can't get over this little hump. Like you said, the second base position with Estrada and Schmidt there, and even Wisely. And then the catching position with Casali and Bailey. It's like all 4 or 5 of them are just ice cold. And granted, yes, Tyro's injured, but you're looking at the other 4. It's like they're ice cold.
Not like he was hitting before.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't. But they're ice cold at the wrong time when we need them most. And it's just this team has gone through stretches where, they've had certain players that are, red hot, and then they get let down by starting pitching. If Birdsong or Harrison's struggling, and then you got Webb and Snell that are pitching their heart out and carrying the load, and offense is coming up short. It's like the team's not clicking on all cylinders at the right time, and that's just been the moral of the story for most of the season.
Yeah, it's frustrating because we want nothing more than the team to do well. We don't like getting on here and sitting there crapping on the team. Like, I would love to, we sit there and talk about, like, none of us like the Dodgers. Obviously, none of us are Dodger fans. We're not going to even pretend to be, but like, I wish our biggest problem was our team was only 20 games over 500 and only leading the NL by 2 games. Like, those guys have it easy. They get to sit there and talk about a team with stars all over the place. And their biggest problem is, too many of our stars are hurt, but we still have 2 MVPs in the lineup every day. Oh, darn. It's like we're sitting here whining about guys that are picked up off the garbage heap from other organizations every week.
And that's part of where the frustration comes from, because it's like, we have the historic franchise, we have the large market, like, we have the ability to be that. And it's like, after 6 years of this, it's just, it really, really frustrates you as a as a passionate fan that wants nothing more than their team to succeed. Like, dude, I don't want to be throwing a parade over getting 1, 2, 3 games over 500. Like, we should be pissed that we're barely getting over 500. So it's just crazy how much things have changed over the last few years. And all I want is nothing more than this franchise to turn things around and just be on top again.
Hey, here's a good one from Gilbert. Last year, Tyro, Flores, and Wade were all solid. You think they make the playoffs if those players had repeated last season's numbers? Probably. I mean, they've gotten not much out of first for a large chunk of the year because a lot of Wade's damage came April, May. Now, the one thing I'll say about Tyro last year is if you want to see some ugliness, look at his numbers from June 1st on. He was terrible.
Yeah. The thing with Tyro, though, is even though he was struggling the second half of last season, he was still a threat to steal, which he's been the complete opposite this year.
Flores, obviously, if we've got a 900 OPS and 23 home runs with at least maybe marginally better production with runners in scoring position from him, like that would have been huge from this team. Which one? What is Jordan original? I'll get back to that one. This team, I don't know if they'd have made the playoffs, but they'd at least be probably 6 or 7 games over 500. They'd probably have at least 3 more wins. This team, if they were just a league average team, situational hitting, and I'm not going to sit here and say that their entire problem has been, I'm not going to sit here and say this team's entire issue this season has been its hitting, because there's been times where the bullpen's been atrocious. There's been times where the rotation's been atrocious. They've had struggles getting innings out of their starting rotation. The bullpen's had, been, kind of beat up and from that and tired, and they're burning them out again. Mm-hmm. But all that said, this is a 500 team, and they are one of the worst situational hitting teams I have ever witnessed in my life. It's kind of embarrassing. And this team has lost, 3 games this week alone because they couldn't get a guy in from third with less than 2 outs. They lost probably 5 or more games before this last week for the same exact reason. It's just so frustrating. And it is just basic fundamental stuff that this team, and it's not even just that, they run into extra outs. They make some of the dumbest plays on the bases I've seen consistently. And that's where it's just like, all the other problems aside, if they were just a decent league average team in that regard, you're looking at a team that is probably in the wild card spot right now.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel.
No, and I literally made a post just a few days ago, last week, about the exact same topic, where I said, hey, if this team was just average with runners in scoring position and average in situational hitting, you're probably pushing 10 games over 500, if not more.
Yeah.
Because like you pointed out, we've been 500, 3 games over 500 with literally and statistically one of the worst teams situationally and with runners on. So it's exactly what you just said. And so it's amazing of how close they are in retrospect from getting over that hump, but it's the little things, the little fundamentals that they can't seem to correct. And that's ultimately what's costing them in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. And this is why I feel like, the biggest need, and we say it every year with them, the biggest need they have is they need a star. They need someone in the middle of the lineup. They need somebody that can give you more of a margin for error offensively, because when all else fails, that guy's going to pick you up. And at least a lot of times they will. They don't have that guy. And how do you get him? I don't know. We've talked a lot about making a move for Vladdy. I would call the Blue Jays and say you can have anybody but Bryce Eldridge. I'm not sure, looking at our current farm system, I'm not sure the Blue Jays would want to do a trade unless they were getting Bryce back. And if they didn't, all right, too bad.
Yeah.
Because I'm not trading that guy, not for anybody in the league. But yeah, I don't know. It's just every year this is what we run into, and they try and create this sum of its parts offense, and it leaves just such a small margin for error. And this year they're getting bit by it big time.
Yeah. And
all right, let's go back. We got a few questions in here. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just say I haven't been this excited for a prospect in like 15 years as I am for Bryce Eldridge. Like you and I text each other.
You were actually this excited.
Honestly, I was pretty excited about Belt when he was coming up, just because he had legit power, and he was very, very hyped. And then Buster, just because how early of a first round pick he was, and what he did production wise. I would say probably one of those two. And then before that, shoot, couldn't tell you.
Remember the hype around Timmy?
Around who?
Around Timmy when they drafted him.
Oh yeah,
he's a little different because he moves so fast through the system. I remember them talking about him I remember them talking about him on ESPN like 3 or 4 starts into they put him in the minors, and he made like 4 of the most ridiculous starts. He'd given up like 1 earned run and 4 starts.
Yeah,
and like on SportsCenter they were like, this guy in San Francisco, in AAA, and then he got like 1 more start and they called him up, but it was pretty crazy. I mean,
remember when they called up Crawford straight from AA? I was so confused. I was like, what are we doing? And then he smacks a grand slam in Milwaukee. I was like, all right, this guy can stay.
Yeah, lifer. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, with Eldridge, if he just tore up AA, I would kind of be like, screw AAA, just bring him up. Like if he does what he's doing in A ball or in high A in AA, I kind of would be like, I just don't even care about AAA. Like, just come up,
bro. You want to hear something
pretty
funny?
Insane.
I was at worship practice at my church, and I'm literally on stage like playing guitar, and I got your text with a video of Bryce, and I literally stopped what I was doing. Everyone else is playing. I'm just watching Bryce Eldridge highlights, like, oh
yeah. This guy, man. For those of you that saw the game yesterday or saw any of the highlights, Luciano hit, or not Luciano, I read the chat. Eldridge hit 2 home runs. One of them was like what did Roger Munter say? It was like a 42-degree launch angle, like just an absolute moonshot that he pulled down the line. The second one,
109,
might have hit 109 EV.
Yeah, bro.
The second one was 107, but he got the launch angle down a little bit. They said he hit it like 420 feet. He hit it right at the parking lot. I'm pretty sure he might have shattered someone's windshield. And to top it off, on top of those, he made a diving play at first base. So flash the leather a little bit. I'll put that in the minor league highlights. We'll get that one in there next week. I don't get a lot of defensive highlights in there.
And today he got intentionally walked in AA in the 6th inning.
In a minor league game, he got intentionally walked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. They're afraid of him.
Yeah. Mark, yes, he is still 19. This is a 19-year-old that turns 20. I mean, they say he's like 6'7", 223 pounds. And I look at him and I go, this guy could still gain like 20 pounds. He doesn't look like that big. I mean, he's huge, but he doesn't look like he's big around or anything. So this guy's gonna be a monster. I think he's gonna figure out and be the guy that we've been waiting for. And I want to get him. I want to get like one more big time power guy, and then I just want to get a whole bunch of speed and that about line drives, get guys that get on, guys that steal bags. That's what I want to see in the lineup with them.
Man, I'm excited for 2026 roughly, when you got Tibbs and you got Eldridge and you potentially have Jordan, and then you still got Lee and you still got Ramos and hopefully Matos, hopefully Luciano if he gets an actual chance. Like there's
get the kids.
Just get the kids, man. That core right there is so promising. Just whatever you do, don't include Wade Meckler in that mix. That's all I ask.
I will say this about Wade. If they just move him to second, he played second base in college. Just get him out of the outfield. Like, that's our problem. Like, Dan and I, that's our problem. He is he is unplayable in the outfield. And everybody wants to call him up. And I'm like, guys, like, y'all, the same people that want to dump Luciano because he can't field a grounder are the same people that want Webb Meckler up, even though he literally cannot do anything right in the outfield. Like, it's so bad. So just get him to second base. Like, that's all we're asking for, because the bat, solid. I mean, he's kind of prototypical second baseman. Just line drives, high contact, kind of limited power, but
you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me, as cliche as it may sound, he reminds me of like a Dwayne Kuiper type of hitter, where he's just gonna slap it. He's gonna get you some contact. He's gonna have very little power, but he's just gonna get you consistent contact. And it's like, I don't have a problem with Wade Meckler's bat. I have a problem with him in center field looking like he's blind out there. That's my issue.
All I can say is the Giants had the second pick in the draft the wrong year. They were 1 year too early.
Yeah.
And that's not to crap on Joey Bart. We like Joey Bart here on this channel. But he ain't Bobby Wood Jr.
I'm a big Joey Bart guy.
Hey, Dan. Good to see you.
What's up, Dan?
Yeah. What's going on? Hey, you're welcome on anytime, Dan. You just let me know.
Meckler, what do you think about Reggie Crawford was a wasted first round pick?
So anything Reggie Crawford? The injuries are a problem with Reggie. It's 3 straight years that we're his first year, obviously he didn't even pitch. Second time, the second year, he only got 19 innings last season. And this year they had him on a good routine. They had him, he would go 2 innings typically, or 1 to 2 innings. They were pitching him every 4 days. And then he had the biceps impingement. They made it sound like he was going to be coming back in June. And, here we are, and it's August 16th, and I don't think he's thrown in a game since then. So it's unfortunate. He could be a good reliever. It's tough. Not what you want out of a first rounder, but it's kind of what you're hoping for at this point.
That's the best way to sum it up. Not what you want, but it's the best you can hope for. Exactly.
Yeah. How many prospects to trade for Bobby Witt Jr.? All of them, and they'd still say no.
They'd have to include me in the trade, and they'd still say no.
All right, let's scroll back through some of these, then we'll get over to the Luciano talk, because I've got a lot of thoughts on just the situation as a whole. I don't even necessarily think that Luciano should be up playing every day. I think he just needs to be playing every day, and there is a very legitimate reason to believe that he needs to continue developing in AAA. I don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you trade, and this is just an overarching thing with Farhan Zaidi, when you come out and trade Jorge Soler and you say, we did this in large part to give Marco Luciano at bats every day. And they come out and try and say, oh, well, things change because, he gets a whole 21 at bats. He doesn't play for 5 or 6 days. And then they go, hey, a lefty's on the mound. Hey, Marco Luciano, go face a guy that's probably going to win the Cy Young this year. And he's won, I think, 1 or 2 Cy Youngs previously. Good luck, dude. And they throw him out in that game. He does get a hit. Now, granted, it was a questionable hit, but, they gave it to him. Hits a hit. And then he gets sent down. And they come out afterward, and this is where my biggest problem with it is. Farhan Zaidi comes out afterward and says, oh, well, we don't really think he was necessarily right physically, which, newsflash, everyone, that was actually reported on well before they traded Soler and they brought him up. So they knew this before they called him up. He doesn't look right physically. And maybe if he got, 8 or 10 hits, we might have felt differently. I'm sorry.
That pissed me off.
The guy making the decisions in San Francisco just came out and basically said Marco Luciano needed to go 8 or 10 for 21 to deserve an opportunity to continue on the team. If that is what we are making the standard for our young players to come up on the majors, and they have to hit, 400 or 500 basically to keep a job, this guy has no business ever making decisions on any major league franchise ever again, because that is the dumbest, most delusional crap I've ever heard come from a president of baseball operations. And I've heard them say a lot of stupid crap over the years. So like that was, I just, that floored me, that comment, to be so dumb and tone deaf enough to actually make a public comment saying that should have been a fireable offense on the spot if I was an owner, because that is just unacceptable. So
no,
that's my tangent.
100%. And here's the thing that infuriates me about the whole thing, which you've kind of touched on. I posted on it on Twitter, guys. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you're missing out on a lot of Farhan fans getting very upset with me.
Slander.
So if you want to be entertained, go ahead and check me out. But no, I posted about that because here's my thing. It's exactly what you touched on. The whole reason that he states they traded Soler was to give Luciano an opportunity, which is much like when they traded Austin Slater 2 months ago and said this is to give Luis Matos an opportunity. So you didn't do either one of those there. If you would have came out and said, hey, you know what? I pissed off Daddy Greg Johnson and spent too much money. I got to get under the second tax threshold to save them a little bit of money. So I'm flipping Soler for a bag of rocks. And we're just going to give Luciano some more playing time in AAA. If you would have just owned up and been a man, the fans and myself and Kodo, you probably would have been a little annoyed, but we would have respected you for being straight up and being honest. For Farhan to literally go out of his way to vouch and act like he's going to give a player, this encouragement and the supports and going to finally give an opportunity just to completely lie to him and the fan base, that's just ridiculous, man. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. And I mean, Luciano had 4 hits in the 21 at bats, but I mean, and that's the end of the world. But shoot, you got Patrick Bailey going 4 for 57, and no one bats an eye. But whatever, that's a different thing that I rant about.
His framing is incredible.
His framing is so good, dude. And then I don't know, and it pissed me off when people or fans and whatnot were bringing up Luciano's whole hustle thing. Oh, he didn't hustle on that one to Austin Riley. Dude, it was a line drive that was caught. Austin Riley flipped on his side and the ball popped out and you couldn't even see the ball from home plate. The farm was smiling and said all that. 100%. I hate farm, man.
I'm getting so tired of a lot of that stuff. Just the talking out both sides of his mouth, just his, he'll say one thing, do the other. And, a lot of things, like a lot of times people will be like, Farhan lied because he said that they were done with free agents and then they went and got one. Or, he says there's certain things that's just simply GM talk. And I will never get upset about it, that stuff. And then there's this stuff where it's like he goes out of his way to make comments about we're going to give this guy an opportunity. Oh, we're upset that we didn't give Ramos more of a look last year, but hey, we got AJ Pollock out there and a bunch of other bums playing the outfield. He just goes out of his way to make some comments that are generally like, why open your mouth? Just why?
Exactly.
Just don't even comment on it.
That's my issue.
Oh,
that's my issue more than anything.
Farhan is lying. His lips are moving. Facts.
Farhan giggle and gaslighting. That's true.
That's fantastic.
True. It's kind of like
it isn't. Hit the like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Appreciate you guys. You rock.
It's kind of like, and I
like 640 now. So
yeah, get this guy to 700, man. Give him to 700.
That's the goal, 700. We're gonna do a giveaway. I don't know what. We're trying to think about it. Maybe we'll do 3 people. I don't know. I need to get. I'm going to a couple River Cats games next week. Maybe I'll try and get someone to sign a ball. Make that the giveaway.
If you give me a Wade Meckler autograph, Cody, I'm going to be very upset. Be very upset with you.
I'll tell you what, you keep the Nick Ahmed jersey to yourself, and I won't send you the Wade Meckler ball.
I'm telling you, bro, the little gap right next to your left, that'll look good right there.
My left, like right over here.
Yeah,
somewhere. Yeah. Well, and then I have this Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus picture that I'm like, eventually if I get something Giants, I'll kick it over. The Montana one's gonna stay. It's, even though this is a Giants show, I'm a Niner fan too. I keep the Montana photo up. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta see who all's over there. Maybe I can catch Wizenhunt. I don't know. Try and get Luis Matos. Hey, Marco's down there.
True. Tyro's down there.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be. Hey, Casey Schmidt might be down there by the time I go to the games next week.
True. Probably will be.
Yeah, and he have to. Even though he's 3 for his last 4. He was in a deep funk. Yeah. He's got 3 hits in his last 4 at bats. So let's see if he can go on a little bit of a run. Updates on Tristan Beck, Will Wilson, David VR, Seth Corey. Oh. Tristan Beck is rehabbing. He's made 2 appearances. I know the first one he went 3 innings, gave up 1 run. The second one, I'll have to try and get back to you on that. I don't remember catching that. Will Wilson was kind of horrible in Richmond, and then still got promoted back up to Sacramento because they were moving a bunch of guys around. I think
Will Wilson's doing Will Wilson things.
He's going to be out of this organization. I would put money on Will Wilson being out of the org after this season, maybe even before the season ends. David VR, he's done decently. I think he was like 5 for. Let's check my notes. Oh, that's from a few. I'll get back to you on VR. Seth Corey's been struggling a lot since he got to AA. He got promoted up to AA, and he's kind of struggled a bunch since then.
I feel like VR has had a pretty solid season, honestly.
Yeah. VR 5 for 17, a double, 5 walks, and 4 Ks in last week. And I haven't looked too closely this week. I've watched a little bit of the River Cats games. I'm going to be honest. I've been watching a lot more of the Emeralds games because they play them at the same time, and the San Jose games because definitely would rather watch Bryce Eldridge and some of the guys down in Eugene. And especially if you look at San Jose right now, they've got some exciting guys. They've got Bo Davidson's been playing well. He really needs to get promoted. Walker Martin's down there. Tibbs is down there. Reckley's down there. Hipwell. Lots of talent down in San Jose. So they kind of play at the same time as Sacramento. And I've been choosing those games over the Sacramento ones recently.
Mm-hmm. Neil Cruz.
I'm not sure. They don't really have they with Perez already, I don't know if Sugaste is going to be back soon. So I'm not sure if they're going to be pushing catchers up really yet. That's the problem. So not sure. Camilo Duvall. Well, he gave up 2 earned runs in his first appearance. That he's kind of an interesting case because he is going to be arbitration eligible next season. So
Duvall is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, and I mean, with the season he had, I don't anticipate him getting any kind of big deal or anything like that. But
it's wild because he was supposedly offered a $50 million extension this past off season.
Bet he's wishing he took that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, he's only given up 2 earned runs. He's pitched 3 innings, so I think he's been in 3 games. So I'm assuming he's gone scoreless the last couple outings that he's been out there. Because I haven't, like I said, I haven't really watched San Jose the last couple days.
Mr. Krebs says, when is Tom Murphy coming back? Hopefully never.
What he said.
just to keep it blunt and honest. Hopefully never.
I would rather watch a pitchback be behind home plate than Tom Murphy ever catch for the Giants.
Yeah.
Genuinely. I say I root for anybody that wears a Giants jersey. I don't root for that guy. No, I'm just kidding. I still root for him, but I really don't want him back there anymore. I can't.
Yeah. I can't believe Farhan gave that guy 7-8 mil. That's insane. You think Lee is ready for playoffs? No.
Probably not.
No.
Maybe the worst offseason move for 2 reasons. Yeah, I mean, Murphy absolutely was the worst offseason move. They could have given Jorge Soler a 10-year deal, and Tom Murphy would have been the worst move.
Oh, dude. I remember when we signed him, I messaged Cody and the guys, and I was like, why did we sign Tom Murphy? I was pissed about it from the minute we signed him. Then everyone, it's power hitting catcher Tom Murphy. I'm like, okay, let's see.
Hey, he'll always have that home run at Fenway in a Giants uniform. He's signed with the Giants more times than he's hit home runs for them.
Yeah, it's true.
What bum catcher did we sign last year?
Oh, what was his name? It was
Roberto Perez.
I hated that guy, dude. I couldn't stand him.
And he played like 2 games. He was former Gold Glover at least.
Yeah, back he's 36 now. That was back when he was in his 20s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember I hated that.
I can justify a defense first backup. I can justify that. A guy that's a no defense guy like Murphy. Gosh.
Now we
Sable should be playing.
Now we have
here's the dilemma, Ryan. Like Sable's just not doing anything. Yeah. He actually had a home run. I think he had a home run a couple days ago. I did see that. It's a problem.
Not saying the problem that we have is that we have a defense first starting catcher with no offense or offensive upside, and then we have 3 backups, quote unquote, who can't play defense or offense, and then nothing in the farm.
Yeah. The Bart, I'm trying to avoid going on a Bart tangent today.
Dude.
Yeah, we don't have for it.
I go on my Bart tangents on a every other day basis on Twitter. So
all I will say is the sign. I'm just gonna leave it because there's a lot of people that come out and say that he needed the change of scenery and he couldn't have done it here. I 100% disagree. And the signs were there that he could break out, given that he had cut back the strikeout rate. The power was always there. He had improved defensively. Like there were a lot of signs that something like this could happen and was on the horizon. And a lot of us, myself, Dan included, said, why would you give up a 27-year-old with potential that is showing signs that he's improving for nothing? And yeah, that I'll leave it at that. The signs were there. The Giants and many fans for this team ignored them. So not going to sit here and say I know more than everyone, but I feel like we were on that one, and a lot of people were not.
I'm not going to go on a caveman rant, but all I got to say is the Pirates and their fans feel like they fleeced us and got a steal. And now they have Joey Bart catching every day. When he's not catching, he's playing DH. He's batting cleanup for them. He's got more home runs than Bailey in half the games, a higher WAR. He's has 3 less RBIs and like 150 less at bats, and he's got like an 881 OPS. So it would be nice to have that.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Oh, here. We don't even need to go on a Bart tangent, but here, this is for you and the chat. I know the Giants would obviously never do this, and they would say no because Farhan loves Patrick Bailey. But had the Giants called the Pittsburgh Pirates and said, "We will trade you Patrick Bailey for Joey Bart straight up," would the Pirates do the trade?
I don't know. And I'm being completely honest because it's like, I don't know. Yes, Patrick Bailey is a phenomenal framer with an elite pop time. And when he's on, he can, nab a runner. But it's like, can we please get one rant tonight?
My dad was in my office with me today. I told him that you were hopping on. He's like, I love that guy. Like, he tells it how it is. I love that guy.
Yeah.
This is so funny.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the support for my passionate rants, guys. And yeah, because Bailey's concussion concerns, that's a huge thing, Ryan. One, he can't hit. Two, he's one bad concussion away from being Mike Matheny at 25 years old. So it's like, yes, he can frame, but when the robo-umps are introduced in 26, 27, framing is going to be basically obsolete. Then what? You're going to rely on pop time and nabbing runners?
Yeah.
And if you have a pitching staff that can't hold a runner, then what? What do you bring to the table, buddy? So I don't know.
It's a tough one. I don't know if they would. I mean, the Pirates fans love Bart, what he's doing there,
they love
him. They love him. You know how many Pirates fans I talk with on Twitter or X or whatever that sit there and they're like, we are so glad that we got this guy. And I mean, especially because they gave up Austin Strickland for him. It's like, whoa. That's you really dug into the farm for that one. Like, it just they love that guy in Pittsburgh. So I don't know. I don't think they would. The only reason I say they might is Bailey is a couple years younger, and they do have Davis down there. So, they have the right-hander. Now, he struggled a ton, but they have Davis and, former number 1 pick. So
he was a number 1 pick. But what's crazy is
do that platoon basically and go, but I don't know. I don't think they would.
What's crazy with them is when they brought Barden, they brought him on just to be insurance. They had 3. They had
Grandal.
They had David. Well, yeah, they had Davis, and then Grandal was hurt, so that's why they brought Bart in. And then Bart was out playing Davis, so to the point where they literally optioned Davis to AAA. Their number 1 pick, their supposed franchise cornerstone, they optioned him in favor of Bart. And then they still platooned Bart with Grandal, and then Bart ended up beating out Grandal. So now Grandal plays once a week, and he only catches Skeens because they need a vet to catch Skeens. And it's crazy. He beat out all their catchers. It's wild.
Yeah, I love it. I love Joey Bart. Sorry, everyone. Hopefully the Bailey people don't get after me for that one, but I love watching Joey Bart play. I'm so glad that he's with an organization and a fan base that's appreciative of him. That's what I'll say. And I will let that be the end of my Joey Bart take for the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If Dan didn't like him so much, I'd say, hey, we should give a Joey Bart signed piece of memorabilia away just to troll everyone.
Mine. I'm keeping them. I'm keeping all of it. I'll give you guys a Patrick Bailey rookie card.
Yeah. I'll keep some comments to myself on that one. Do I think Farhan gets fired this season? I don't.
Nope.
I think he deserves to, but I don't.
Agreed. I made this joke, and it's a joke, but at the same time, it feels like it's not a joke. I said Farhan Zaidi has become like a son to the Johnsons, so I don't think he's going anywhere.
He's bald, just like a baby. He's their kid. How much and how many? Yeah, guys, keep firing questions in there. We're going to probably be wrapping this up here in a few minutes. I know Dan's,
I would go. Yeah, I can go for a few more. I would do 4 years, like 90 mil, 90, 95 mil max for Chapman.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
90.
It comes out to
my head.
It comes out to what?
90 is what, 22 and a half?
I was going to say, yeah, it comes out to 22 and a half average annual salary. 4-year deal. Keeps him until he's about what, 34, 35? That's about the most.
Next season is his age 32 season. So you'd have him through his age 35 season if you go 4 years.
Exactly. That'd be the most I would do. Ideally, I'd want to do like a 3-year deal, like a 3-year 75. But knowing Scott Boras and how he works, it's probably going to go 4 years.
I agree, Mark. I don't want him more than 3, but I might bend and give 4. Like, that's kind of how I feel about both him and Snell. Like, Snell, I don't really want more than 4, but I would maybe bend and give a 5th. Like, those guys, if we want to go that route, I don't mind going that route and getting these, extending these guys. But they have got to make a commitment to winning if that's the route they're going to do. Don't sign these guys and then just play a whole crap load of young guys around them and be like, oh, well, we're going to win 75, 80 games again, and that's it. Like, if you're going to get these guys, it needs to be part of actually trying to win.
Yes, exactly. Or you could just do 3 years with the 4th year being a team option.
Yeah. Players hate team options, though.
They do. they do.
Especially Boras.
Boras, the bastard.
Yeah, I will say this. I think anybody that thought JD Davis was going to have a better season probably needed to get checked out a little bit.
Dude, I was talking so much smack the beginning of the season and for the rest of it up until even this past week about everyone that was saying that.
I did say Chapman offensively, historically his offensive production was basically JD Davis-esque. But he was a gold glove, platinum glove defender. So I always said like he was kind of JD Davis with an elite glove, which is historically what he's been. Now JD Davis then decided to absolutely fall off a cliff this season, but I genuinely said that he was better. Matt Chapman is a way better player.
Way better. Yeah.
Chapman's
I agree.
Than any of them. Yeah. For those that like WAR, he's like a 5 WAR player this season. I mean, he's been in that category one of the best players in the NL.
I think it was top 5 in WAR. Ryan, going back to your comment, saying he's not needed on the team, that's mid. That's exactly why Cody and I said
100%.
Only if you're committed to winning. That's that's the thing that it goes hand in hand with, because if you're not committed to winning, don't do it. I don't think there's enough talent for the Giants to be good again.
I think it's completely contingent on the young guys. Like that's this is the problem. I'm going to say on one hand, I go, you can't do it unless you're going to commit to winning. But on the other hand, so much of what it's going to take to win is going to be, contingent on the young guys turning, keep continuing to develop, because, you feel good about Fitzgerald. You feel really good about Ramos. And then there's a bunch of guys that big question marks. We still don't even know what we have in Jung Lee, really. McCray, who knows? I like the guy. Friend of Dan's show, apparently. He dropped a comment on there randomly. Yeah, we thought it was a fake, and then we clicked on the profile, and it took us to his. So shout out. But guys like Schmidt, Wisely, we just don't know. And it's Matos, Luciano, like we don't know. So it's like, to me, if you're going to do that, you almost, if you sign Snell and Chapman again, like you kind of need to go make a Vladdy trade, do something bold with it.
Yeah.
So,
and they have the ability to do that this offseason. You got so many contracts that are falling off the books. You've got potentially 4 starting positions in the lineup that are available. And you're gonna have, I believe, going into next season, they've only got like 110 mil committed in contracts or something around that.
Yeah.
Like, then you're gonna have a lot of money to spend. Like, you can compete as early as next season if you play your cards right.
Yeah. Who can they get realistically in free agency? If they wanted to spend the money, they could get whoever they wanted. But I don't think they're going to be willing to financially fork out the money to go get a Soto or anything like that. Burns, they could afford. I don't know if they'd want to put out the money for him. I mean, the guy I've said that I think is the most likely for them to sign would be Ha-Seong Kim. Yeah. He's probably and he's having kind of a down year. I'm not sure exactly what he's at. I know he was kind of slumping for a bit. Yeah, he stopped hitting homers like entirely. Still a little tiny bit below league average bat. I mean, the OPS is down at 685, but he still has 22 steals. Like he's a guy that'll hit you 15 to 20 home runs most years and steal you 30 plus, you know.
For sure.
Please get rid of Yaz. I feel it. Rhys Hoskins. I like Rhys Hoskins. I don't know what kind of deal he's going to get. And I will say this. And as someone that was like, yeah, you know what? I understand the Soler signing. And I was kind of excited to see him hopefully hit some tanks. I don't like the idea of signing a DH only player. And if you're going to get Hoskins, it's going to be probably a multi-year contract. And I'm not getting a guy that's blocking Eldridge. So now Vladdy, you could, it's different because of the level of player.
I was just going to say, what do you think about making a move, whether it's via trade or via free agency, for a first baseman like Vladdy or Alonso and having them be like a bridge to Eldridge?
I could do Vladdy because I like, number one, the age. I think that's a guy that fits the timeline. You know, he's 25 right now, I think. So he'll be 26 next season. You got a lot of guys in that age range. I mean, Ramos will be 25 next season. Bailey's going to be, 26 next season, maybe, I think.
Yeah.
You know, McCray, if he's around, he'll be 25. Yeah, it kind of fits that. And then Vladdy, I say I don't like having a DH only guy, but Vladdy's a little different because that's an actual, like, legit elite hitter, and I would take that in a heartbeat. And you can put him out at first, like, he's a DH who can play first. You know, you give Eldridge a day off or so a week, and it keeps him fresh. So like I could do that. So we'll go through a couple of these before we're done. This one I'm just going to read. Gilbert, how much do you think the luxury tax will play a role in the offseason? I don't expect the Giants to land a big bat, but can someone fall to them because others are maxed out in payroll? I mean, I don't see them going over the luxury tax a second year in a row. So I'll say that right out the gate. And big bat, I think it's more likely to be for a trade. I don't see them really landing. Is Kyle Tucker a free agent this year, or has he got one more? He has one more.
One more. Yeah.
Damn, I like Kyle Tucker.
I like Kyle Tucker a lot too.
You can rake.
But I kind of touched on this question earlier. The Giants have a little over 100 mil committed towards next season. So that's how much.
Does that factor in arbitration estimates?
Does not.
Okay, so it's probably going to be closer to 130 or 40 mil.
I was going to say, you're going to be pushing about 130, 135, depending on how arbitration goes. But I mean, that still gives you almost 100 mil to work with.
Yeah, definitely. Frederick, we haven't seen you much today, but I love it. They aren't at war with 500. They're in a torrid on off again. Love affair with 500. Facts.
Hey, did you guys like the I don't know if anyone saw, Cody, I know you liked it, a little poster that I made for you.
Yes.
And that
it was phenomenal. You guys, if you want the full image, go to Twitter, and Dan posted it. I shared it as well. I think it's some of his best work. Hilarious. I love it.
My creative brain gets working sometimes, guys.
Yeah. Is Torkelson gettable? Went to high. Hey, that's pretty cool. He went to the same high school. If you can get him, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed.
Yeah.
Not for, if you can get him for cheap. I'm not sure if he is or not. I have a hard time believing they had like just given up on him. And kind of same thing with Andrew Vaughn, but
sorry.
Oh God.
I read D-Shot's comment.
Hey, they raided Korea for Darren Ruff. They've raided Mexico for Gerard Encarnacion. Hey, wait, they got Bivens. He pitched in France because apparently they have a league over there.
I don't get this.
What other small time league is there that we can expect Farhan to raid next? God.
Good.
I am actually up near. I was in the Bay Area for 22 years of my life. I'm actually up near Seattle nowadays, so that's why I'm going to the. But I still have a bunch of family or some family down in the Bay Area. I get down there fairly regularly. A lot of my wife's family's in Sacramento area. So
yeah, Cody's up there. I'm more Bay Area now.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else before we get running? That's kind of. I feel like I starred one. Oh, here. You know what? I starred Ryan's comment earlier. We'll get to this and then we'll call it. Like one positive thought before we go. All right. You guys think there's any chance Fitzgerald is a 20 home run, 20 stolen base kind of guy? This year's been great, but it's always hard to tell with rookies. You're watching the minors and track. Yes. Fitzgerald posted 2 consecutive 2020 seasons in the minors, including a 2030 season. I think last season he combined between minors and majors, he was like 23 and 32. He's one of only 2 players to ever hit 20 home runs in Richmond in a season. Now, Eldridge, I have no doubt in my mind, would be the third, except for I don't feel confident that he'll actually play the whole season in Richmond next season. I think there's a good chance that he gets the early call-up. But I absolutely think he can. I think the speed is the easiest one. Like he will easily surpass 20 stolen bases a year. I think he will break the 30 stolen base drought next season is my prediction. Yep. I predicted he would do it this season. He played too inconsistently and didn't run nearly as much. But I mean, the power, that was a shock. Yes, it's mainly to his pull side, but he's really good at, getting the fly balls to left field. So I think he absolutely can. 100%.
He's at what? How many steals does he have right now?
Is he at like 14 and 14 or something like that? I feel like he has like 14 homers, 14 stolen bases.
He's about 6 away from both with 38 games remaining in the season.
If he still might get to 30 stolen bases.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's got 38 games. As long as he plays consistently and he stays healthy, which is huge, I can realistically see him finishing with about 21 and 26, somewhere around that number. Just based on what he's shown thus far. I mean, you saw that home run that he hit 2 days ago where it was up and in on his hands and he was still able to put the barrel on that thing and drive it out. Like those are fundamentals that are just natural. He's a legit talent with the bat. So it's been a joy to watch him. And I genuinely think as long as he keeps and maintains consistent play, doesn't go on a slump for 10 games, he'll be on the team for the rest of the season. I can definitely see him doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. He has a shot this season for sure. I don't know if he'll get the home runs. I do think those are going to slow down at some point. I mean, I hope they don't. It's awesome to watch what he's doing, but
we've been saying this for a month. That's my thing.
Yeah. You would think that after he hit 5 home runs on 5 consecutive days, I was like, all right. I mean, this isn't really what he's been historically. And then he just keeps doing it. It's like, all right, dude, good for you. So maybe he does it this season. It'd be awesome if he did. And yeah, I mean, I just, Yeah, I think he's going to easily be that kind of player. I just hopefully he keeps doing what he's doing. It's fun to watch. And they're gonna get him for his prime because he has 6 more years of control, and he is he what 27 right now? I mean, you're talking about having this guy from age like 28 to it's gonna be like your Yaz type player. Or it might be 26 now. I think he's 27 next season. So you're gonna have him from like 27 to 32. It's like yeah, that's premium. And then here we'll do this. I'll get your thoughts and then we'll call it. This will be the last one. Who do you think wins the Willie Mac?
I said Ramos.
I have the who I want and then the guy I think is going to win it. I want Ramos to win it. I think Chapman wins it.
Yes, I agree with that. I want Ramos too, but I didn't think about Chappie. I can definitely see that.
Yeah. I just
either way you can't
how
go wrong.
Well respected. Yeah, it's not you're not feeling like really that's when someone gets it.
Yeah.
Chapman's just so well respected. I could just see him like getting just a crap load of votes. But then again, it wouldn't shock me if like Logan Webb won it, honestly. Like certain guys just have a lot of respect in that clubhouse. And I know a lot of people love what Ramos has done and brought, and I could see him getting a lot of votes too. So I don't know. I think my gut's one of those two guys though. Probably.
I could see him.
So
yeah.
All right, everyone. Yeah. Hey, they've done this before. Co-winners.
Yeah, co-winner would be cool.
I'm all for it. Do it.
All I know is whoever wins it, Tom Murphy was snubbed. That's all I gotta say.
What? What about Nick Ahmed?
What about Dalton Jeffries?
That is still one of my favorite tweets that I've sent out this year, where I was like, Nick Ahmed is still contributing to Giants losses after he hit that go-ahead.
Hey, that one did pretty good too.
It did.
It did really good.
Oh,
at least the one that went viral-ish for you was a funny one that got lots of laughs. I'm brand new to Twitter and I got like 30,000 interactions on one, and it's just I got people coming for my throat, man. I wake up to 20 notifications of people just talking smack. I'm like, okay.
Well, it's because Dan made the mistake of breaking the 11th commandment of thou shalt not criticize Patrick Bailey
and Farhan Zaidi.
Or Farhan Zaidi, yes.
I did a 2-in-1 special. I broke commandment 11 and 12. Now I'm paying the price.
Oh, God. Oh, God. All right. Well, on that note, we'll get this thing on the road. Thanks everyone for joining. If you're checking on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it. If you're on X, hop over to YouTube if you can to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Or for those that are listening on Spotify, it'll probably get published tomorrow, I'm sure, or something like that. I've not been the best about getting those audio files uploaded in a timely manner. I apologize for that. I will try and get those ones out on time this time. So, all right, everyone. Catch you guys next time. Peace. Go Giants. Even though they frustrate us, go Giants.
Always.
And we'll see you next time.